While millions of people are yelling at their TVs, wearing team colors, and letting a single game control their emotions, there's a massive group of people who feel absolutely nothing. And here's the surprising truth. Neuroscience suggests their brains may actually be wired differently. Stick with me, because what you're about to hear could completely change how you view sports, obsessed people around you. This isn't about taste or personality, it's about how the brain processes identity and reward. Let's clear something up immediately. Not caring about sports doesn't mean you're boring, unmotivated, or emotionally flat. It doesn't mean you lack passion or excitement for life. In fact, it may indicate a brain that operates differently from the majority of people. And once you understand what sports do to the brain, this difference becomes impossible to ignore. So why do sports matter so deeply to so many people? Humans evolved as tribal creatures, and for thousands of years, belonging to a group meant survival. Your tribe protected you, fed you, and helped keep you alive. Modern sports are simply that ancient instinct dressed up with stadiums and merchandise. When fans watch their team play, their brains release oxytocin, the same bonding hormone tied to family and close relationships. That means the brain is playing a clever trick. It convinces fans that these athletes are part of their inner circle, even though they've never met them. Winning feels personal and losing feels painful, despite nothing changing in real life. This chemical reaction fuels loyalty, emotion, and intense attachment. For many people, it's incredibly powerful. But here's where things change. People who don't obsess over sports often have lower tribal instincts. Their sense of identity isn't strongly tied to group membership. They're more individual-focused and less dependent on belonging to something bigger. Instead of needing a team to feel complete, they already feel grounded in who they are. Research supports this idea. A 2019 study found that people with low interest in sports showed far less us versus them. Thinking in simple terms, they don't automatically dislike others just because they're on a different side. Their brains don't default to rivalry-based identity. That alone sets them apart in a culture built on competition. Now, let's look at what happens inside the brain of a sports fanatic during a game. That rush of excitement before a big play is dopamine firing. Every possession delivers another small hit of anticipation and reward. It's a constant loop, and yes, it's addictive. Brain scans show that watching sports activates the same reward centers linked to gambling. The real hook isn't winning. It's uncertainty. Not knowing what will happen next keeps dopamine flowing. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive reward pattern known. It's the same principle used by slot machines. The brain doesn't care where dopamine comes from, it just wants more. People who don't care about sports simply don't get that dopamine surge from vicarious competition. Their reward systems aren't triggered the same way. And, surprisingly, this difference may be genetic. Research from the University of Chicago suggests dopamine receptor variations can predict interest in spectator competition. Your indifference might literally be written into your DNA. There's one final layer most people miss. Sports fans often engage in basking in reflected glory. When their team wins, they say, "We won." But when the team loses, it becomes, "They lost." People who aren't into sports rarely do this. They don't rely on external victories to feel successful. If this changed how you see sports fandom, Part 02 goes even deeper. Drop a comment if this sounds like you, hit like if it made you think, and subscribe for more eye-opening content. One key difference people often overlook is self-esteem. Those who don't care much about sports usually have more stable self-worth because it isn't tied to outcomes they can't control before anyone takes offense. This isn't about one group being superior. It's about recognizing real psychological differences in how people find meaning, and once you notice them, they're hard to unsee. Here's something that sounds unexpected. Sports fans often score higher on certain empathy measures. They practice caring deeply about the struggles and victories of people they've never met. Simply because they share a team, that emotional investment is genuine. So why don't non-sports people feel the same way toward athletes? It comes down to how empathy is distributed. Everyone has a limited capacity for deep emotional investment. People who don't follow sports often direct that energy elsewhere, toward relationships, creativity, social issues, or intellectual challenges. A 2021 study found that low sports interest is strongly linked to openness to experience and a love of art and beauty. They're still chasing connection and fulfillment. They just get those emotional highs from music, ideas, nature, or personal growth. The brain is seeking the same rewards, meaning stimulation and purpose, but through different paths. Nothing is missing, it's simply redirected. For some people, indifference to sports is also protective. Maybe they felt excluded by sports culture growing up. Maybe competition felt aggressive or unnecessary. Or maybe they never understood why adults scream at screens over something that doesn't affect their lives. Sometimes indifference has a backstory, and sometimes it doesn't. And that's okay. But this difference explains why sports fans and non-fans often struggle to understand each other. Sports fans are drawn to narrative, the comeback, the rivalry, the underdog story. It feels like real-life drama with unpredictable outcomes. That uncertainty is the appeal. People who don't care about sports often see that randomness as meaningless. They ask, why emotionally invest in something I can't influence played by people I don't know? And they're not wrong. But sports fans aren't wrong either. These are simply two different ways of meeting the same human need for story. Researchers describe this as parasocial investment versus direct engagement. Sports fans form one-sided emotional bonds with teams and players. Non-sports people prefer investing energy, where there's reciprocity, where their effort matters. One group watches meaning unfold. The other creates it. Psychologists studying flow states have found that deep immersion can come from many activities. For some, it's watching sports. For others, it's creating learning or building something meaningful. The experience is similar, only the source differs. What's especially interesting is that people who don't obsess over sports often feel more present in their own lives. They're not spending hours emotionally living someone else's journey. They're focused on their own challenges and growth. There's something quietly powerful about that. So if you don't care about sports, you're not missing out. You're simply wired differently. Your reward system, empathy focus, and sense of meaning follow another route, and that's perfectly fine. The next time someone asks, "Did you see the game?" remember this. You're not broken, you're just playing a different game. If this resonated, hit like. Leave a comment and subscribe for more content that explains why thinking differently can be your biggest strength.